My name is Dallas, and I'll be introducing Chapter 12. I'm Shania.
I'm Christian, and we'll be doing Chapter 5.
I'm Trey, and me and Dane are going to be doing Chapter 9.
And I'm Dane.
Okay, so today we'll be talking about the importance and just problems with divorce. Divorce is a pretty big common thing in the United States, with almost all marriages ending in divorce, which is 50%. Our goal with this whole video is to kind of just explain and help out our generation, the next generation that's going forth with getting married, to not have to deal with divorce, because the complications that come out of it are very not the best things to go through. But anyway, so with that being said, we're all just going to kind of talk about how communication plays a big role in how to stay together and as a family to stay as a whole. So so to start off, married adults are actually healthier than people who are unmarried. They are less likely to engage in risky behaviors, and they are actually benefiting more from spousal support. It's nice to come home to someone and have them unconditionally love you and support you no matter what. Conflict in particular seems to have more of a negative effect on wives' health rather than husbands, and it's true because I've seen it firsthand. My parents were divorced when I was 11, and my mom took that very more to heart, I guess you can say. She was the one that experienced all of the negative symptoms while my father kind of just rolled on through. I mean, there were ups and downs between both of them, but my mom definitely took more of the harsher side effects. With that being said, also, families with regular conflict, especially families who are going through divorce, will also experience more issues with their children if they do have children. They are more likely to engage in riskier behaviors as well, including more earlier offset indications of them doing drugs. My brother was, I think, 12, he was maybe 13 or 12 when my parents got divorced as well. And from then, he has always been kind of, he started very early with drugs. He got addicted to marijuana very early. He got addicted to drinking at a fairly early age. And so I think that tends to be more of a side effect, because if there's so much conflict going on, you want to relieve the stress somehow, and so you go look for it in some other things that will make sure that the anger or whatever's built up inside decreases. Communication is also very important, and I know through divorce that it's often not very, what's the word for it? I guess like talked about a lot. People don't seem to have a lot of communications during divorce because they're just so angry at one another. But through the kids and what they're seeing, parents' communication styles can also affect how the children react psychologically and sociology. Not sociology. What's the word for it? What you said, yeah. After a difficult discussion. So if they see their parents in a conflict and they're not solving it, then they're more likely to also, when they have a discussion with someone, it's very hard to have a normal discussion. Or if they're having a fight with someone, it's very hard to make sure that that fight is brought to an end in a very nice manner. It's kind of hard for every single kid that's going through a divorce to go through it normally, and every divorce brings its own struggles. But if you have good communication, and this goes for the parents, but if the parents have good communication, they lay down a lot of just things to look at, the children to look at, so they can go off of what they're experiencing. And so if you have good communication, the kids are going to have good communication. If you guys tend to keep the conflict at bay, the children will also not have to worry less and not have to have so much stress on their shoulders, and then therefore they're less likely to engage in less riskier behavior.
Go for it.
So Dallas just brought up some interesting information and facts about why it's important to stay together as a family, and how detrimental to a family and the siblings and everyone involved it can be to have to go through divorce. So with that, a family needs to maintain the relationship and to have a healthy relationship, there's some things you can do. There's three major communication strategies that can strengthen family relationships. These include confirmation, rituals, and relational currencies. So within confirmation, there's recognition, dialogue, and acceptance that what make up confirmation. So in recognition, you just want to recognize and acknowledge the other person and just make them feel like they're there and included. And then you also have dialogue. So having an open line of communication and conversation with that person is also really important. It could be just you or your mom or your whole family, just being able to really sit down and talk. And then there's also acceptance, and with that, it occurs when we allow ourselves and each other to be open and accepting of what the other person says or their views. And then also another important aspect of maintaining a relationship or a family relationship is rituals, because they remind family members who they are and how much they care about each other. So with that, you have family celebrations like birthday parties. You do special things with birthday parties or just graduations. And then you also have family traditions, which are things like, Christmas. What do you do for that? Does the family get together? Is it a good time? Everyone having fun? And then also family interactions just in general. It can be everyday connections. You can make little things into rituals. And also, you have relational currencies, which are the acts or statements used to express love and affection in relationships. So just some examples would be like self-disclosure or money. You buy people stuff. There's nonverbal displays of affection. You have time together, gifts, just listening. So all these things together kind of tie in to try to make sure your family's maintaining a healthy relationship and really supporting each other, so they're not putting the family or the parents in a position where they want to split up, because that's really detrimental to the whole family and the children.
Within the strategies that he was talking about, I feel like it all ties down to being open and having a lot of openness. This chapter also chapter 5 talks about having the behaviors, your behaviors tie into your relational maintenance also. So it talks about 8 of them. So one would be positivity, and then that includes like interacting in being fullness and just being positive all the time. And then the openness, discussing like things that matter within the relationship. And then the third one, assurance, so making sure you guys, like, the messages are well read. And then number 4 would be like understanding, and it goes into within being forgiving and understanding of anything. Networks would tie into activities, and then relational talks would be discussing like your one-on-one person, like your relationship. And then self-disclosure would be about feelings and talking about your fears, and then tasks, just fair share. And then
Yeah, so conflict is another big thing, especially in relationships. Everybody goes through conflict. There's 4 different styles for conflict. Number 1 is competitiveness. That's basically when one person wants to beat the other person. An example of this with my family is me and my mom. Me and my mom argue a lot, and I try to get my way with everything. So I'll use competitiveness when we go through conflict, whether it's picking where to eat or picking where to go on vacation. The second one is collaboration. That's basically where they try to show concern for the other person and try to work out a plan, like a happy medium. The third one is compromise. That's basically where you partially meet the needs of each member involved in the conflict. And basically it's kind of like a win-loss situation for each family member. So it may not be the best scenario for you, but it's good enough where you can deal with it for the rest of the year. And then the last one is avoiding. That's definitely probably the worst one, and that leads to a lot of divorces. And the reason why is because one person is basically neglecting the situation. So one person is trying to talk to the other person, but the other person just has nothing to do with it. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons for divorce. Based on where I live right now in my house, I live with 7 other guys. And I think out of the 4, we try to do a compromise. Since we have so many people, it's good to just talk about problems in the house, like washing dishes, not doing chores, and just trying to find that communication system. And I think we try to come up with a plan. I mean, it does take us a while to come up with a plan, but we do. And we just find a plan that meets everyone's
Fulfillment.
fulfillments.
So yeah, bouncing off of that, in chapter 9, I also thought it'd be really important to look at the pattern system that couples are, because couples are a system, and if you have a healthy system, obviously it'll lead to a healthy relationship, and hopefully you can avoid divorce. It's interesting for me knowing this going into a marriage this summer, because then I'll know how to have a healthy system. So it's a withdraw, or it's the first one is a discuss or exit, and that is one partner wants to talk or demands conversation, the other exits or withdraws. And so it's the overall pattern of these 4 systems is demand and withdraw. So someone demands something and the other person withdraws from it. The second one is Socratic question or perfunctory response, and that's someone asks the questions and the other person gives an answer. This can be really healthy, but if it's done sarcastically or the other person doesn't give the true answer, that's when it can be unhealthy. The third one is complain/deny, and this is when someone complains about a topic and the other denies that it's a legit topic or a legit complaint. This is the key word there, I think, is complaining, because you probably shouldn't be doing it in a complaining fashion. And then the other person is probably going to deny it, because who wants anyone to complain on them or nag on them? And then the last one is criticize and defend. And this is when you criticize something, and criticize normally is the poor way of doing it. And so it's going to make the other person defensive. In my relationship, I would say it can be more of a Socratic question or slash perfunctory response. We try to do it in a healthy way, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. But it's interesting to see which system pattern you are in your relationship, because then you can, once you know that, you'll either be able to turn into a healthy or unhealthy. And hopefully, I mean, obviously in divorce, you get divorced because you're in an unhealthy situation. So to avoid that, it'd be nice to be in a healthy situation. And that was chapter 9 for Trey and I.